actually what we talked about the other day, or where we got. But I'm actually gonna skip quite a bit of the beginning of Sorcerer's Stone because I do want to try to get us up into, trying to find the schedule, a little bit at least of Chamber of Secrets today, since we're supposed to do Chamber of Secrets today. Maybe get quite a bit more than I hope. So I want to pick up with when Hagrid meets up with the Dursleys and Harry in chapter 4. And we're not going to talk a lot about this chapter, but just, this is the important point when Harry discovers who and what he is. Okay? Hagrid tells him, page 50. No, I take that back. 51. Tells Harry you're a wizard. I'm a what? A wizard, of course. And a thumping good one. I'd say once you've been trained up a bit. With a mom and dad like yours, what else would you be? And he gives Harry his letter. And then he goes on and he talks about muggles and such. And Harry discovers that the Dursleys knew. And we hear page 53. This is going to be important because it's going to come up again. How do I phrase this? It's going to come up later in the 5th book that Petunia knows a lot more than she lets on. Okay? Harry says, page 53, You knew I'm a wizard? Knew? Of course we knew. How could you not be, my dreaded sister being what she was? And then she just goes on. I mean, she just goes on a tear. It's pretty clear this has been bottled up for a long time. Okay? And she lets out all this kind of stuff, and she lets slip that, they told Harry that his parents were killed in a car crash. So Hagrid has to explain, no, they were actually murdered, and he has to use the name Voldemort. Okay? Tells Harry about the horrible things Voldemort's done. And Vernon finally says, that's it, no more. I'm not going to put up with this nonsense. We tried to squash it out of you. Nothing that a good beating, wouldn't take care of, etc. Okay? And the whole situation kind of ends with Hagrid accidentally, more or less, putting a tail on Dudley, and he and Harry leaving the next day to get Harry's school supplies from Diagon Alley. And they go off to Diagon Alley and say those two words fast. And what do you get?
Diagonally.
You get diagonally. Why is that significant or important? How do you find Diagon Alley? Okay, you got to go into, first of all, the Leaky Cauldron. Okay, you have to go through the back door out into the alley. Trash can, I think it's 3 bricks above. You got to tap them and then it kind of opens up. Would somebody close that door, please? How do you find the Leaky Cauldron? Do you just walk down Charing Cross Road until you see the sign that shows an image of a cauldron with leaks, stuff's leaking through it? No. You can't find the Leaky Cauldron unless what? Unless you're a wizard or a witch. Okay? But Rowling is toying with this notion, with the name Diagon Alley, of seeing diagonally. In other words, all of us in our everyday, ordinary, daily lives, how do we tend to see things? Straight on. That's right. What's straight in front of us. We're not looking necessarily over here. Not meaning that we don't have any, peripheral vision. Meaning our attention is straight on. She seems to start suggesting that maybe if we take one step either way, we might see things a little different. Or, put it another way, If we might step outside our shoes and into the shoes of the person next to us, we might experience their perspective. We might see things slightly different than how we see them. Because how do we tend to see, and I don't mean again straight on, what do we tend to think of what we think or believe? It's right. I mean, how many people you know tend to think that what they believe is completely false? And they walk around, yeah, I believe, and I know it's completely a lie. No, most of us don't do that, okay? Because that's delusional, okay? So we tend to think that we have, quote unquote, the truth. I'm not saying that people don't, quote unquote, have the truth. I'm not saying that, we just need to all share our perspectives and we'll all arrive at I don't believe that for a moment. Okay? I'm one of those who would say, as an example, student walks into a class wearing a Che Guevara shirt, you ought to leave. Why? Because Che Guevara was a mass murderer. On the level, not to quite the same extent, but on the level of Mao and Stalin. He was not a nice guy. You should not be celebrating him. Or Castro. Now, you might disagree, and we can argue about that. And believe me, outside of class, I would love to. Okay? But that's saying, that somebody says, oh, well, I just have a different perspective. Doesn't mean, not all perspectives are equally right. Not all ideas are equally valid, right? Because I bet if you said, well, sure they are, and I invited the Grand Wizard of the KKK to come in, I imagine there would be one or two people in here that would have some difficulty with that. Or if I invited, the head of ISIS to walk in, I imagine there are a few people who would probably go, no, I don't think that would necessarily be the best thing. Or if I were to invite, let me pick somebody from the right wing, what's the crazy church in Kansas?
Westboro.
The Westboro Baptists. Okay, if I were to invite the preacher of the Westboro Baptist, the guys who like to show up and protest at dead soldiers' funerals, okay, I imagine there would be one or two people who'd say, no, I don't really think so. Showing that all of us think there are some ideas that are valid and good and true, and there are others that are despicable and reprehensible and etc. and should be, I would argue against. Okay, I'm going to go off on a soapbox here for a moment. This is the one place in this country, I won't speak about other countries, this is the one place in this country where all ideas should be discussed, even those that are reprehensible. This is the place the person who holds reprehensible ideas ought to be allowed to make his or her case. Let the marketplace of ideas determine the truth. That is, don't shut them down, don't ban them from campus, as happens at some of our esteemed universities. University of California, Berkeley, the birthplace of the free speech movement in 1964, now doesn't allow certain speakers on campus because of the ideas they hold. That's ludicrous for a university to say that, because that's a universe saying, your idea is good, your idea is good. No, I don't like your idea. Go away. Your idea is good, your idea, the rest of you are reprehensible. Get it out. That's it. Rather than allowing everybody to speak. How do you arrive at truth? Is it just by simply saying, I have the truth, it's my truth, it's good for me, it works for me? Maybe you've got a direct conduit to truth, okay? But for most people, how do you arrive at it? Through the hammering out of ideas, okay? Through discussion. Does it mean discussion might get a little heated? Sure, it might get a little heated. It doesn't mean, however, it comes to blows, and it doesn't mean you have campus security escort people off campus because you don't like their ideas. Okay? This is the one place every idea, every thought should be capable of being expressed. And I'll go out on another limb. Personally, I would say that ought to apply every place in the United States. It's why we have a First Amendment. Period. It's why we have a First Amendment. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about publication of ideas. If I'm a publisher and I don't like what he says, that doesn't mean I have to publish what he says. He can publish it himself. Use your own damn time and paper and money. Okay? You have an idea? Put it out there. It's the wonder of these things. Start your own blog. Explain that you believe you were abducted by, whatever. Okay? All I'm saying is the government of whatever form shouldn't stop people from saying what they want. If they did, what would we end up reading? I mean, people wanted to do what to this book? They did ban it. They burned it. I mean, I remember when, about 2000, 2001, there was a place in South Carolina. They had a book burning like a festival. Okay? To ban this, to burn this, and other, similar tripe. Okay? There was a very famous book. Boy, I'm getting way off topic. There was a very famous book written in 1950, published in 1951, by Ray Bradbury. Any of you know what it is? Fahrenheit 451, the temperature at which books burn. Okay? That book was banned. Just, let that irony sink in. Okay? And it was burned by certain people, but Bradbury had to write a coda to it in around 1997, 98. That is, a little edition that is now published at the end of it. Why? Because Bradbury discovered that editors were changing some of the words in his book about censorship. They were censoring the damns and hells out of the book. Why? Because the book was assigned high school reading. And high schoolers, we all know, have such pure virginal ears that they can't hear words like damn and shit or hell. Okay? So he wrote this little thing, and he talked about people who wanted to change his book. And he essentially said, you don't like my book, because some people had written them, said, we want to put on a play of your books, but your book doesn't have enough strong female characters. Clarice gets killed, after all. But so we'd like to add some women to it. He said, hell no. You don't like my book? Guess what? Write your own. That's it. Write your own. Don't take my book and add to it. All right? If we let the censors win, what are we going to end up reading? Dictionaries. Harbrace Handbook of English. Boring. Telephone books. Boring. Okay? Bradbury says, as good kill a man as kill a good book. He gets that not on his own. He takes it from a 17th century writer. So, don't let anybody shut you down. Don't let anybody shut you up. If you're, doing something on campus and some administrator comes and says, oh, you have to do this, and say, no, I don't. First Amendment says I don't. And then fight him on it. Okay, back to Harry Potter. Because Harry Potter's going to, he's going to face censorship issues, right? 4th and 5th books, especially the 5th book. Okay? So, they go off to Diagon Alley, and Harry gets his stuff. And what's the real significance of that chapter? It's who he meets. Okay? Not only Hagrid, obviously, but who else does he meet in Diagon Alley? Specifically, when he's getting measured for his robe. Draco Malfoy. Let's talk about names for a moment. Draco means what?
Dragon.
Draco, dragon. Malfoy. Anybody know what that means?
Bad. No.
Good. It's French. A lot of the names here are based upon French and or Latin. It's Malfoy. Bad faith. Or, another way of putting it, bad belief. is Draco Malfoy? Not so much in this book, but we get it in later books, especially 5 through 7. What does Draco Malfoy put his faith in? Voldemort. Vol de Mort, if you want to pronounce it like a good Baptist American. If you want to pronounce it like French, Voldemort. Okay? Why? This means death. This means from, and this comes from the Latin volare, meaning to fly or flee from death. Voldemort doesn't want to die, right? We get that from the first book. We get that all the way to the 7th book. Okay? So he doesn't want to. What about Malfoy's father's name? We hear it later on. Lucius. What does that mean? The first part, L-U-C, comes from Latin lux, which means light. What is, for those of you who are semi-biblically literate, I'm not saying you are semi-biblical, if you are semi-biblically literate, what is Satan's real name?
Lucifer.
Lucifer. What does the ifer mean? Because luz is this. Lux, light. It's bearer of. Now that's a damn good name. You know, one of the nicknames, I think it was Newsweek or Time, called President Obama the Light Bearer. Were they calling him Lucifer? I never made that connection. Wow. Man, I don't think, well, that's because writers for Newsweek and Time aren't semi-biblically literate. Okay? It means bearer of light. It's a good name. So how come nobody names their child Lucifer anymore? It's got this little association, you know? It's like people don't really, most Germans don't name their child Adolf. Gotta, right? So it's like something, okay? So you have those names go on there. Hagrid sounds kind of like if you reverse the vowel in the second half with the R. Haggard. Tired, worn looking. Okay? Harry's just Harry. It's a diminutive form for Henry, but Harry's real name is just Harry James Potter. Okay? So, he meets Malfoy. What does he discover as a result of meeting Malfoy?
Doesn't like Slytherins.
Okay? What else?
His family hates people who aren't pure.
He doesn't like non-pure bloods. What does he call? What does Malfoy call Hagrid?
Servant.
He's a servant or something. Okay? Introducing this idea of class, do we see much class language with Harry at the Dursleys? Not really. We find out, Vernon is a manager of a drill factory. Pretty good job. Probably brings home a pretty good paycheck and such, though he does live in a little trashy house, which is not much bigger than this room. Okay. If you go to the Harry Potter set just outside London, take my Harry Potter course in London, and that's one of the field trips. And you can walk in number 4 Privet Drive. Okay. Where was I going with that? So you don't get this class talk so much. You do get some little bit of class envy a little bit every now and then, where, it's clear the Dursleys would like to move up on the social stratus. There's the talk, I think it's in the next book, that if he makes this one sale, they might be able to do what? Buy a house in Mallorca, which is an island off Spain. Okay, summer home, nice digs there. So what else? He learns or recognizes there's something else that goes on in the wizard world that is also in the real world. It's a result as of meeting Draco. Prejudice. Okay? Because he has this impression of what about the magical world? It's going to remove him from his daily grind. It's going to remove him from the doldrums. He's also very scared because he doesn't know anything about it. Okay? So he meets Draco, has that little conversation, doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. He doesn't know what Slytherin means. He doesn't know what Quidditch is. Okay? And so he talks to Hagrid. Hagrid's like, don't worry, you'll be fine. Everybody's like that at the beginning. And Harry's like, yeah, but he wasn't. He knows everything. Right? He goes back, lives with the Dursleys for a while. He goes off to King's Cross. Dursleys are willing to take him because they got to get Dudley's tail removed. And Mrs. Weasley kind of sees Harry and shepherds him, helps him through the barrier. And King's Cross is no longer what it appeared to be, because King's Cross today does not have steam engines. And he's suddenly there with this big red and black steam engine, steam billowing out. He gets on the train and he's immediately befriended by Ron. Okay? Why? What do Harry and Ron have in common that makes them friends? Does Harry have a brother? No.
They know no one else.
They know no one else. Okay. True to some extent. I mean, Ron's got 3 brothers.
Didn't want to sit with, couldn't sit with others nowhere else.
Yeah, they didn't want to sit with him.
Yeah.
Okay. Typical older brothers. Right? I'm the youngest of 5 kids. So I understand a little bit of Ron. What else do they have in common?
Hand-me-downs.
Hand-me-downs.
He understands what's like not to have.
Harry understands what it's like not to have anything, even though by this time, Harry knows what about himself?
Money.
He's loaded. He's not just rich, he's loaded. They open that vault and there is a pile of gold, we're told. Okay? In fact, he thinks, man, if the Dursleys knew, he'd probably get bumped off. Okay? So Harry's loaded, Ron's poor, but Harry's been raised all his life like he is poor, right? What clothes does he have? Dudley's old clothes. Dudley is what size compared to Harry?
So
Triple extra large to Harry's mediums, Okay. What else? They're both first year. They don't know what to expect. What Ron knows to expect comes primarily from whom?
His brothers.
Which ones?
Fred George.
If you're Ron, do you believe anything that comes out of Fred George's mouth?
No.
No. What about Percy? Do you listen to Percy?
No.
Not really, okay? So, they're on the train. Who comes and barges in? Hermione. Describe our first introduction to Hermione.
She has large hair and buck teeth.
Large hair, or what's called bushy hair, buck teeth. What else?
She's helping Neville.
Helping Neville. So she's helping. What else? Well, Ron's attempting a spell. And she's like, well, let's see it then. Come on, let's. And it's some stupid thing Fred and George told me. It doesn't work. Doesn't she come across even there as somewhat of a know-it-all? Okay. Who else bursts in?
And then Crab and Goyle.
Neville. And then Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle. Okay. Why is this significant that Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle, or Draco, Goyle, and Crabbe? Because it doesn't matter which you call them. They're just bookends. Muscle 1 and Muscle 2. That's it. On either side of skinny old puny Draco. What's the significance of this little interaction between Harry, Ron, and Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle? What's Harry do?
Signifies where he stands
Okay. How?
by choosing Ron.
He chooses Ron. What does Malfoy offer him? Hand of friendship. He says, I can help you there, Potter. Help you where? To choose, to know who are the good ones and who are the bad. I can help you there, Potter. What's he offering him? Power? Does Malfoy have power per se? No. But he's saying, I can kind of help grease the skids. Okay? And Harry says, I think I can choose for myself, thanks. Okay? What do Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle then do?
They try to take all their stuff.
They threaten. Harry and Ron. Okay? And Harry kind of stands up and opposes them, and they say, what? You're going to, Harry, well, not if you don't leave. Describe Harry physically compared to Crabbe and Goyle. Pushover. Okay? And yet, he stands up literally. He stands up for Ron. Willing to defend Ron. We see that very early. In fact, we've seen it already once before. Where? Not where he's defending Ron. He's defending somebody else. Madame Malkin's robe shop. He defends Hagrid when Malfoy maligns him and says, I heard he's sort of a servant. He lives, in the hut on the ground. And Harry says, I think he's magnificent. Okay? Harry's kind of choosing sides, choosing lines there. Okay? So they get on to school. And we see them taken up to school. We see the Sorting Hat's first song. And let's talk about this just real briefly. The Sorting Hat says, try me on and we'll see which house you go in. And he describes the houses. Now again, what does Harry know about the houses so far? Virtually nothing. Hagrid's told him a little bit. He calls those in Hufflepuff duffers, though he says it's not really fair. Okay? So, the Sorting Hat speaks first about Gryffindor. You might belong in Gryffindor, it's page 118. You might belong in Gryffindor, where dwell the brave at heart. Their daring nerve and chivalry set Gryffindors apart. So, Gryffindors, brave, daring, nerve, chivalry. Any one of those a bad trait? No. Those are all good. Okay? Or maybe you belong in Hufflepuff, where they are just and loyal. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and unafraid of toil. So they are just, loyal, patient, true, hard workers. All of those are positive attributes. Maybe in wise old Ravenclaw, if you've a ready mind, where those of wit and learning will always find their kind. So, wise, ready mind, wit and learning. All good attributes. Or maybe in Slytherin, you'll make your real friends. Those cunning folk use any means to achieve their ends. Okay, cunning is good. But using any means to achieve your ends? That's like climbing the corporate ladder with knives in the backs of those ahead of you, Not necessarily a positive thing. Okay? So various people put on the hat, and then Harry does. Page 121. The last thing Harry saw before the hat dropped over his eyes was a hall full of people looking at him. Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent. Oh my goodness, yes. And a nice thirst to prove yourself. Now that's interesting. So where shall I put you? And all Harry can think of is, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. Why? Draco is in Slytherin. Notice, he doesn't say Gryffindor. He doesn't say Hufflepuff. Definitely doesn't say Ravenclaw. Why? Here's a last choice for Ravenclaw, man. He's just not a bad mind. That's not a ringing endorsement of Harry's mind. Okay? What does that mean? Middling. Okay? But notice what else it says. Plenty of courage. Well, that's clearly Gryffindor. Not a bad mind. Well, that's maybe Ravenclaw. Talent. Oh my goodness. Yeah, what is talent? Raw ability, potential. Okay? And a thirst to prove himself. Why does Harry have a thirst to prove himself? Well,
He's famous.
he found out he's famous. What did Ollivander say to him when he discovered his wand? When Harry discovered which of all those wands that he tried was his? It's the brother of Voldemort's, and he follows, we must expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. Harry's like, no thanks, really. Just pile more on my shoulders. I'm already the boy who lived. The only known person to be hit by that curse and not die. He's in, what does McGonagall say? Most books about magic. Okay? I mean, even Ron goes, are you really him? Okay, just prove, yeah. So where shall I put not Slytherin? Are you sure? You could be great, It's all here in your head. And Slytherin will help you on the way to greatness. Why? Because Harry has a thirst to prove himself. What does he have to prove? It wasn't an accident that I lived. Okay? So he goes into Gryffindor. Obviously, we're skipping a lot. Okay? So, he meets the potions master, Snape. Describes Snape at his beginning, well, and almost all the way to his end.
Shoulder length, like greasy hair, black robe, swallow looking. Solid.
Yellowish kind of skin,
Yeah.
hook nose, angry,
Seems to hate Harry.
sour, hates Harry, fires off 3 rapid-fire questions to him. Harry doesn't have a clue what any of them are. Hermione, who's already read the book, knows it all. Okay? And Harry's like, why? Why me? Okay? We get the chapter, The Midnight Duel, where Harry gets challenged to a duel by Malfoy, and Malfoy has no intention of carrying out the duel. So why does he challenge him? So he'll tell Filch or let on and get Harry in trouble. What happens as a result of that chapter? What do they discover in that chapter? Because who goes along? Hermione. Okay? And Neville. What do they discover? Fluffy. They go through or into the 3rd floor hallway. Hermione does her Alohomora trick. They go behind the door and there's a big giant. What is this dog's other name? Cerberus, Greek mythology. Okay, guards the entrance to hell. Big giant dog, and Hermione's the only one who notices what about it? It's sitting on a trap door. Okay, so they go back to their dorm, and we get the Halloween chapter. Okay, we find out a troll is let loose. Harry and Ron leave dinner. They're being escorted up to their rooms. And they remember Hermione's not with them. Why isn't she with them? Because as they were leaving, I think it was potions, Ron says, well, she has to know why no one's friends with her. She's just a know-it-all. Nobody likes her. And Hermione kind of shoulders past him, then bumps into him in tears and runs off. Harry's like, well, now you've done it. He's like, well, she needs to know. So she doesn't show up at dinner. How do they know that she shows up in the 3rd floor girls' bathroom? Same bathroom, by the way, that figures in later with Moaning Myrtle. Yeah. So, they hear the screams. They rescue her. What does Hermione do to cement their friendship?
Takes the blame.
Lies to a teacher, okay, to McGonagall. Says, I thought, because I'd read about them, I could go after them. What do we see Ron do that he wasn't able to do in Charms class? Which one? Wingardium Leviosa, gets the troll's trunk club, rides up in the air, smacks it on the head. Harry, meanwhile, sticks his wand up its nose. Next chapter, Quidditch. Okay, Harry has his first Quidditch match. He wins, but who is trying to curse him, they think?
Snape.
Okay. Hermione stops him. And then I wanted to get to this chapter, because this is the one of the most important ones. The Mirror of Erised. We're told, beginning of the chapter, Christmas was coming. Okay? And They're trying to find out who Nicholas Flamel is. They've already heard Hagrid slip. And let's see here. Christmas Day comes. So they're looking in the library and Madam Pince kicks them out and stuff. Christmas Day comes. And Harry's surprised. Why?
His presents.
He's got a pile of presents. Okay? Pages 200, 201. They get a present. Harry gets a present from Aunt Vernon, Uncle Petunia. A note with a 50 pence piece. Okay? Harry gives Ron the money. What else does he get? What does he get from Mrs. Weasley?
Sweater.
Weasley sweater.
Weasley sweater, okay. What's he get from Hagrid? A flute. Has Hagrid shown, up to this point, any interest in wood carving? No. Has Harry shown any interest in musical instruments? No. Why does Hagrid send him a flute? It's a plot device. She needs that flute in Harry's hands. That's it. That is the only reason. It is not in keeping with anything we know about Harry's character. We never even hear, for example, that while he lives at number 4 Privet Drive, even when he goes upstairs to the spare room, that Harry listens to music. Okay? So he gets that. What else does he get? Hermione gives him a present, box of chocolate frogs. And then the last one he opens and something fluid and silvery gray went slithering to the floor. Ron, I've heard of those. What is it? It's an invisibility cloak. Put it on. Harry puts it on and he disappears. Ron's like, whoa, cool. Really, valuable and all this kind of stuff. And a note falls out of it and Harry reads it. Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well. A very Merry Christmas to you. Now, what does Harry have that belonged to his father or his mother? Nothing. He does not even have a photograph of them. Okay? He will by the end of the book. Hagrid gives him a scrapbook of photos. Okay? Has he ever seen a photograph of them? No, he has no idea what they look like. He's told, or he will be told, he has his mother's eyes. That's it. Okay? McGonagall tells him when he rescues Neville's Remember All. Okay, we can talk about that another time where he comes to the defense of somebody. She says your father would be so proud for you. He was Seeker also. Okay? But Harry's first year and becomes Seeker. First time this has happened, we're told, in over 100 years. Okay? So he now knows I have some ability that my father had. Now I have something. So this becomes like what for him? This was my grandfather's. Okay? It's like an heirloom. Right? The note says to do what? Use it well. You're an 11-year-old in a huge castle with lots of places you're not supposed to go. And you've just been given something that makes you invisible. How could that use it well be interpreted? Have fun. Okay? So, Christmas dinner comes, they have a ball, they have snowball fights, etc. Harry puts the cloak on and he goes off because he's going to go check out the library. He's going to look in the restricted section, try to find out more about Nicholas Flamel. And he hears noises, and so that he finally goes off into an unused classroom, page 207. In the classroom is a huge mirror, floor to ceiling. Okay? So probably, I think it's safe to assume, the ceiling at least as high. So this is a big mirror. Okay? And it has inscribed on the top the words, Erised stra eru oit ube kavru oit an wozi. Which means what? I show not your face, but your heart's desire. Read it backwards. Okay? So, Hillary Clinton looks in this mirror, and what does she see?
Herself as the president.
Bingo. Or Donald Trump dead, one of the two. You know?
Both.
Okay? Yeah, probably with her with the knife, you know.
Yeah.
Heart's desire. Okay? Or Mitt Romney, you know, he's run more than once. He's just itching for it. Okay? So it shows the deepest desires of your heart. Harry looks in it, and he throws his hand over his mouth to keep himself from screaming. Why? Because he'd seen not only, this page 208, he sees not only himself in the mirror, but a whole crowd of people standing right behind him. Okay? It shows your heart's desire. He looks, he sees himself, notice, but behind him is a whole room full of people. But the room's empty. He turns around. Very slowly, he turns back to the mirror. Breathing fast, turning slowly. He turns back to the mirror. Okay? Something has just happened. From the time when he first looks in the mirror, he looks back to make sure there's not a bunch of people behind him, and he looks in the mirror again. Okay? One thing that has just happened is time has passed. How much? We don't know. But some has. How do we know? There he was, reflected in it, white and scared looking, and there reflected behind him were at least 10 others. Harry looked over his shoulder. He looks again. But still no one was there. Or were they all invisible people too? Was he in fact in a room full of invisible people? And this mirror's trick was that it reflected them, invisible or not? He looks again. A woman standing right behind his reflection is smiling at him and waving. Okay? So, he's looking in the mirror, and a woman standing right next to him is smiling and waving. What does Harry do? Does he smile and wave back? He sees her, and he does this. Why? What's he trying to do? He's trying to touch her. Okay? So, she's smiling and waving. Was she smiling and waving before? We're not told. We're told there are 10 others. We're not told what they're doing. Now she's smiling and waving. He reaches. He doesn't touch her. If she was really there, he'd touch her. Their reflections were so close, but he felt on the air. She and the others existed only in the mirror. She was a very pretty woman. She had dark red hair. And her eyes, Harry thinks her eyes are just like mine. Bright green, exact same shape. But then he noticed that she was crying. But then noticed what's just happened. Time has passed. Now she's crying. Why is she crying? What has happened as time passed? Harry looks, sees her. She's smiling and waving. What does she, work with me for a moment. What does she see? She sees Harry doing this, trying to do what? The old AT&T commercial. Reach out and touch someone. She sees Harry trying to reach out and touch her, and she now starts crying. Why? She can't touch back. That's her son. She knows he can't touch her. So what's that telling us about what's going on in the mirror? Is it Harry's deepest, darkest desire to see his mother crying? That is no child's deepest, darkest desire. It's almost the exact opposite. Okay? So why is she?
He wanted to see her as she is now.
What do you mean, as she is now?
Like,
She's
right.
dead.
Yes, but even he just wanted to see her, regardless if she was alive or dead.
Okay?
Like to see her spirit.
See her spirit. See, because later on, book 7, Harry's going to go to where she's dead. He's going to go to the exact grave. And he's going to think, My parents' moldering remains are there now, indifferent, he thinks, to my suffering. In other words, dead, gone, gone, completely gone, gone, not coming back, gone. Okay? Get the image, okay? That there's nothing after death. Here, he tries to reach out and she starts crying. But crying, she's smiling but crying at the same time. So why is she smiling and crying? Is she confused? She's smiling, why? He sees me. She's crying, why? He sees me. Okay? I'm still trying to get at what's going on inside the mirror. Why does he see her smiling and crying? If his deepest, darkest desire is to see his family, shouldn't they all be happy?
Well, it's as if they were still alive.
That's what I'm... Hold that idea. She was the tall, black-haired man standing next to her put his arm around her. Why? He's comforting her. Okay? But all this supposedly only exists in Harry's deepest, darkest heart. Yes?
Is it maybe sort of like the reader's stare, like in the fourth one?
Yeah, I think that's entirely what's going on. What Rowling is doing here, when she says, was he in fact in a room full of invisible people? I think she is trying to get her readers to maybe open their minds just a little bit to admit the possibility that what we see isn't all that exists. How do you know? Oh, I don't know. The Leaky Cauldron and Diagon Alley. Because I, being a pure blood muggle, would never see the Leaky Cauldron. I have walked up and down Charing Cross Road, where the Leaky Cauldron is supposed to be off of. I have never seen it. I know, I'm being facetious here. But muggles aren't supposed to see it. Okay? Wizards and witches can. We're told it is on Charing Cross Road between, I think, a record store and a bookstore. Well, there aren't any record stores and bookstores next to each other on Charing Cross Road. Believe me, I've taught my Harry Potter course about a dozen times in London. Students look. They look at every damn building as we take that walk, okay? I think she is trying to get us to entertain the possibility that there is another level of existence. There is the physical, material world we inhabit, and there is a immaterial, spiritual world. Right? Because people have, Rowling would say, souls. And the soul is immaterial. The soul is spiritual. Now, the soul is tied to the body while the person is alive. But after that, who knows? Bell Witch kind of thing. People say that's the soul of the person who died there, etc. So, he sees this man comfort the woman. Why? I think this is because this is happening real time. That is, if my reading is correct, this is James and Lily Potter's soul that Harry's seeing in this mirror, and his father is doing what? It's okay, Lily. He can see us at least. Okay? He looks like Harry. Glasses, hair untidy. Harry's so close to the mirror, we're told, his nose was nearly touching that of his reflection. Mom? Dad? They look at him smiling. Why? Because they've not read the novel The Martian. They don't go, get a piece of paper and a pen and write, Hi, Harry!
Yeah.
To show to him, or spell it out in rocks, like in the film. Could they? Sure they could. They just look and smiling. And Harry slowly notices faces of other people. He sees other pairs of green eyes. He sees other knobby knees like his. He sees other tufts of hair. And the Potters smile and wave at Harry, and he stared hungrily back at them. his hands pressed flat against the glass. Notice, as though he was hoping to fall right through it and reach them. So he's pressed up against this mirror. Why? As though. Is that as though really telling us what Harry's deepest desire of his heart is? What's he want more than anything else? To be with his family. Well, how can that be achieved? Yeah. He could kill himself, or he could have somebody else kill him, or he could die. And he'll be dead. Where are they? They are dead. He'll then be with them. He can't have that here on this side of the mirror. Why? Because Dumbledore is going to say Dumbledore's going to say in book 4, alas, there is no spell that can reawaken the dead. Okay? He stands there. He says, I'll come back. Next night he brings Ron back. Okay? They go back. Harry says, see? Ron, I can't see anything. Look at them. They're all there, loads of them. I can only see you. Come on, look at it properly. Go on. Here's my point about Diagon Alley. Stand where I am. In other words, see from my perspective. So Ron stands where Harry was standing. Look at me. Can you see all your family? Really, Harry? Okay, this is one of the reasons why I said Harry doesn't belong in Ravenclaw. What's Ron's problem, quote unquote, with his family? There's too many of them. He gets lost in the shuffle. He's the second youngest of how many? 7 kids. He's got 5 older brothers. Are any of you the youngest of large families? Okay. How many? 4. So, what does that mean if you're the youngest of 4 and your family doesn't move and you go to the same schools that they all went to? Expectations. Especially if they're all smart and perfect. Okay? Because what do they expect? You to be smart and perfect. So some of us just say, oh yeah, well, and we just intentionally do the opposite. And yet we still semi-turn out okay. Ron sees what? Okay? Let's start with the first word. Himself. What? Alone. Not Fred and George, not Percy, Charlie, Bill, not Jenny, not Mom and Dad. Just me. Me, glorious me. What else? I'm different. I'm older. I'm head boy. Harry's thinking he's got to be on drugs. I'm wearing the badge like Bill used to. So I've matched Bill. What else? And I'm holding the house cup and the Quidditch, and I'm Quidditch captain. Ha! Just aced them all. Okay? You think this shows the future? Please let there be a God. Please let it show it. Okay? Harry, how can it? All my family are dead. Really, he does not belong in Ravenclaw. Because how can Harry, become unliving? Die? That's how he can join his family. How can it? All my family are dead. Let me have another look. You had it to yourself all last night. Give me a bit. You're only holding the Quidditch cup. What's interesting about that? I want to see my parents. Notice 2 kind of competing visions. For Ron, this is pretty important. He wants to stand out. Does he stand out being Harry Potter's best friend? No, because he's always Harry Potter's best friend. What always comes before best friend? That's where the focus is. Okay?
Why wouldn't Hermione put him like
She tells us later on that the Hat wanted her to. The Hat wanted to put her in Ravenclaw. I think it's in book 7. She says that. She wanted to be in Gryffindor. So the Hat allows you some choice. Okay. Notice it doesn't, if I remember correctly, it doesn't even touch Draco's head.
Barely.
It's like it, it's like, zap.
Uh,
Slytherin evil. Okay. So there's a noise that startles them. They throw the cloak back on. They run back to the room, and Ron's like, "Don't go back there. Don't go back there." Harry goes back the next night. Page 212. There he is. There are his mother and father smiling at him again. One of his grandfathers nodding happily. Harry sits down on the floor. He's just going to sit there. And he hears "So, back again, Harry?" There's Dumbledore. "I didn't see you, sir. Strange how nearsighted being invisible can make you." What? What's he mean? What's it mean to be nearsighted?
Just
You don't
looking
see
what's in
what?
front of you.
Yeah, you only see what's in front of you. Well, if you're invisible, you don't really see yourself even. Okay? So you, like hundreds before you, have discovered the delights of the Mirror of Erised. I didn't know that's what it was called. But I expect you've realized by now what it does. What's Dumbledore doing? He's teaching. Using the Socratic method. He's just going to start asking Harry questions. He's going to tease the answers out of him. You've realized by now what it does? It shows me my family. And it showed your friend Ron, himself as head boy. How did you know? Notice, I don't need a cloak to become invisible. Use it well. Your father left this in my possession when he died. We're going to find out who that is later on. So, can you think what the Mirror of Erised shows us all? Harry. Nope, not a clue. Okay. Happiest man on earth would be able to use the Mirror of Erised like a normal mirror. That is, it would show him, he would look into it and see himself exactly as he is. Why? What does the happiest man on earth, that is, the man whose deepest desires of his heart are fulfilled, what does that man have that none of the rest of us do not have?
No desire.
No desire. Perfect. Totally content. Totally satisfied. In other words, he's reached the state Buddha says one ought to reach. The state of apatheia, not apathy. Apatheia means no passion, no care. It doesn't mean not giving a damn. Okay? Those are opposites. It means being totally content. Okay? We're going to see a little inkling of it. When Harry's put under the Imperius Curse in Book 4, he feels like a huge weight's been lifted. Why? Because he has no desire. He feels utter bliss. Because somebody else is now in control. There's no I, so to speak. Initially, at least. Okay? So, does that help? Harry, it shows what we want. He's thinking like Dudley. Mega Mutilation Part 23, Whatever we want, yes and no, Dumbledore says. It shows us nothing more or less than the deepest, most desperate desire of our hearts. And he explains to Harry what Harry saw. Okay? What I want you to entertain is the possibility of two things. One, either Dumbledore's not telling all the truth, or two, Dumbledore doesn't know all the truth. Okay? He says, you who have never known your family see them standing around you. Is that all Harry sees, though? No, it's not. He sees his family standing around him. How? In real time. So that when his mother realizes Harry sees her by doing this, she breaks into tears. What are Harry's memories of his mom? None. They don't come out till Book 3. Dead? No. Okay? So when they become aware of that, we see them interact in time. Ron, who's always been overshadowed by his brothers, sees himself standing alone, the best of all of them. The mirror will give us neither knowledge or truth. Knowledge, kind of like factual information. or truth. I mean, what kind of truth would that be for Harry? He misses his family? Okay. What does he mean by knowledge or truth? What was Ron's question? Does it tell the future? Am I going to be head boy? Am I going to hoist the Quidditch World Cup? And am I going to hoist the House Cup? Am I going to take it all? You know. Men have wasted away before it, entranced by what they have seen, have been driven mad, not knowing if what it shows is real or even possible. Okay, obviously. Is what the mirror is showing Harry theoretically possible? Can he be surrounded by his family? Not on this side of the mirror. Yeah. But, I mean, theoretically, if one accepts the existence of souls, yeah, then over there, unless maybe, you know, again, theoretically, you accept the dichotomy of heaven and hell, you know, maybe Harry does something wrong, and he ends up the other place, you know, and they end up in heaven. Just saying. The mirror will be moved to a new home tomorrow, Harry. If you ever do run across it, now you'll be prepared. What does he mean? Yeah. Does he mean don't run across it?
When you do.
Yeah. When you do, little hint, Harry, now you know how it works. I've got a trick up my sleeve. Remember this, kid. This is the Grand Chess Master moving the pieces across the board. Another way to describe Dumbledore, especially once you get to the end of Book 7. Grand, cold, calculating chess master. Okay? Which we'll talk a little bit about later. So, Harry asked Dumbledore, what do you see? I see myself holding a pair of thick woolen socks. That's it. That's what I want. That's the deepest desire of my heart. Why? Okay, one, is Dumbledore just lying? He might be. Assume that he's not. Assume he's telling the truth. Why would he want wool socks? Okay, why else? They live in the north of Scotland in a frickin' 1,000-year-old castle. Okay? I've been, not in northern Scotland in a 1,000-year-old castle, but I've been in the Czech Republic in a 1,000-year-old castle on just before Christmas Day when it was about 25 degrees outside, and guess what? It was about 28 degrees inside. Because all that stone just acts like ice. It sucks in that cold, and then it just gives off cold. Wool socks would be pretty nice in a big old castle up in the north of Scotland. Okay? So, chapter 13, Nicholas Flamel. They figure out who Flamel is. And Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback. The only reason that chapter is important is for what? It's two things. They're both connected. It's not because of the dragon. It's completely beside the point. It's so that Harry can leave the invisibility cloak behind on the astronomy tower. Okay? So that when they get caught, it gets left behind. Okay? What happens as a result of their being caught? Who gets detention? Harry, Hermione, Draco, and Neville. Okay? What's detention? They go off into the Forbidden Forest with Hagrid. I don't know about you, but that sounds like Shangri-La. I mean, that's vacation, man. Okay? So what are they going into the Forbidden Forest for? There's an injured unicorn. They need to find it. So they run into some centaurs. Hagrid asks them, "You've seen anything funny?" And Mars is bright tonight. They say like 3 times. He's like, "Yeah, I mean a little bit closer to home." So what does that mean, Mars is bright tonight? Does it just mean Mars is bright tonight? We see Mars clearly? What is Mars? God of War. What is this? It's foreshadowing. It's talking about the impending, the coming war. Okay? So, Draco pulls a joke on Neville. And Neville shoots up the red sparks. they find Hagrid again, and Hagrid's not got to break this up. So instead, he gives Fang to Harry and sends Harry, Fang, and Draco off. Okay, and Neville, Hermione, and Hagrid will go off. Well, Harry and Draco find the hurt unicorn, sorry. What does Harry do? It's in a clearing a little ways ahead. They're walking towards it. They see the silvery blood. What does Harry do? Anybody remember? I don't remember if they show this in the film. It's been so long because I hate him so much. He throws his arm out and he stops Draco from going forward. Okay? Page 255. Look, he murmurs, holding his arm to stop Malfoy. Why does Harry stop Malfoy? Why did Harry come to Ron's defense on the train? Why did Harry come to Neville's defense when Malfoy stole the Remembrall? Why did Harry come to Hagrid's defense at Madame Malcolm's? Louder?
Protecting?
Right. Why? It's instinctive. It's part of that raw talent that he has. Harry is a natural-born protector. Okay? Notice, what's his relationship with Malfoy? No, Draco, go check that out for me. That would be me. No, Draco, I'm sure there's nothing dangerous at all. Okay? He's his enemy. It's kind of because of Malfoy, he even has detention. I mean, Malfoy tried to get him detention before, right, with the Midnight Duel. So he even protects his enemies. So Malfoy runs, and Firenze comes and rescues Harry, and gives him a ride on his back, and he starts asking him a bunch of questions. Okay. Bane shows up. Bane, blows a gasket, because, here's Firenze, a noble centaur, giving a human a ride on his back like a common jackass. And Firenze says, do you not see that unicorn, page 257? Do you not understand why it was killed? Or have the planets not let you in on that secret? I set myself against what is lurking in this forest, Bane, yes, alongside humans, if I must. In other words, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Okay? That thing's the enemy, not this kid. So, Bane and the others leave, and Harry's like, well, golly gee, Mr. Firenze, why was Mr. Bane so upset? And so he starts asking him questions. You know what unicorn blood's used for, blah, 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 blah. It'll give you a half-life, a cursed life, but who'd be that desperate? If you're going to be cursed forever, page 258, death's better, isn't it? Notice the option he says. Cursed forever, eternally, that's what forever means, or death. Harry's saying what? Death is preferable in some situations. Death is to be preferred over its opposite. And he says, well, Harry, do you know of someone who might like to get something that... And he goes, yeah, the Philosopher... No, sorry, Sorcerer's Stone, that thing that doesn't exist. Can you think of nobody who is not Voldemort? Okay? So, goes back up to his room, and as if by magic, there lying on his bed is his invisibility cloak with the note, just in case. Now that you know how to use this mirror, Harry. So, Harry tells Ron and Hermione he's going to go after it. They try to tell McGonagall, they get in trouble. And Harry finally says, I'm going through the trapdoor, page 270. We're obviously not getting to Chamber of Secrets. And Hermione says, you can't, you'll be expelled. Bottom of 270. Harry, so what? Now listen to what he says, because I don't know about you, every time I read/teach this, it really bothers me, because it doesn't fit. It's out of place here. Don't you understand? If Snape gets hold of the stone, Voldemort's coming back. Haven't you heard what it was like when he was trying to take over? There won't be any Hogwarts to get expelled from. He'll flatten it, turn it into a school for the dark arts. Losing points doesn't matter anymore. Can't you see? Okay, all that's fine. There's no problem with that. You think he'll leave you and your families alone if Gryffindor wins the House Cup? If I get caught before I get to the stone, well, I'll have to go back to the Dursleys and wait for Voldemort to find me there. It's only dying a bit later than I would have, because I'm never going over to the dark side. Lot of problems there. Why does he say, I'll have to go back to the Dursleys and wait for Voldemort to find me there? How does he know Voldemort is looking for him? When Hagrid talked to him back on the hut on the rock, Hagrid didn't say, oh, and Harry, by the way, Voldemort really was only after you. Your parents were just accidents. He says he thought he'd make a clean break of it. Killed you. Oh, shut up. Stupid Siri. Killed you in addition to his parents. Now, Harry seems to imply he was the one Voldemort was looking for. He doesn't know that yet. Dumbledore's going to tell him that in a couple of chapters. Okay? So that's one huge problem, for me at least. What else does he say? It's only dying a bit later than I would have. Well, okay. Would have when? Going through the trap door or something? Would have when he tried to kill me when I was a baby? Yeah, probably. Because I'm never going over to the dark side. Cue the Darth Vader breathing. When did somebody ask him to? I mean, Malfoy says, the most you can say on the train, I can show you, I can give you help there, Potter. And when Harry says, no thanks, I can choose for myself, you might be a bit more politer, or you might go the way of your parents. That's it. Is that Malfoy saying, join with me, Harry, and together we'll rule the galaxy? No! When's he been asked to go over to the dark? Whoever said anything about a dark side? You get the dark arts, but we're never told there's a dark side, so to speak. Okay? I'm going through the trapdoor. Voldemort killed my parents. Ron and Hermione say we're going with you. Okay? So, Neville tries to stop him. Hermione body binds him. And they've got to pass through a series of tests, right? What are the tests? First one. Fluffy. The flute. Ah! Harry remembers to bring the flute. Okay? Why? Because Hagrid said something one time when he was slightly drunk about that's how you get past the three-headed dragon. So Harry stuffs the flute in his pocket. So they get past the flute. What's the next thing? They fall through the trapdoor and they land in Devil's Snare. Okay? So Hagrid, Professor Sprout, right? Hermione deals with the Devil's Snare only after Harry reminds her that she can make fire out of nothing. Because Harry and Ron are clueless. They can't. Right? What's the next thing? No, not chess. It's the keys, right? Flying keys. That's Harry, obviously. Okay? That's Flitwick, charms. Next thing, Troll, already knocked out. Because Quirrell did that. Next thing, chessboard. Okay? Which is McGonagall. Who gets him past the chessboard? How? He sacrifices himself. This shows us something about Ron's character. Not only does he know chess, which means what? He's not a dummy. You can't be a dummy and really play chess. I mean, you can be a dummy and play chess like the way I do. One move at a time. Not 3 moves, 4 and 5, 10 moves ahead. Okay? Ron's that capability, right? Which is what? It's logic and strategy. Okay? So he says, I got to get taken so that will enable you to take the queen and go across. So he does. So they're at the final one, seemingly. What is it? It's potions. But it isn't potions. It's logic. It's a word game. It's a word math problem. I'd have been dead. Hated math, word problems in math, and at school. I just gave up. So I would, say, I'll drink all of them, just,
Oh gosh.
okay. Hermione solves it. Harry goes through. What does Hermione tell him? Anybody remember? She says, just before he goes, kind of. Hermione dashes at Harry, page 286, throws her arms around him, and she says, Harry's like, Hermione? He's 11 years old. Girls, you. You're a great wizard, I'm not as good as you. Me. Books and cleverness. There are more important things. Okay, what's meant by books and cleverness? What's included in the books? Spells. Wingardium Leviosa, Alohomora, all those various spells. That's all stuff that's taught through books. What does she say is more important? Friendship and bravery. In other words, virtues. Okay? Be careful. Harry, you drink first and then I'll go. Okay, you're positive, right? She's like, what happens if she keels over? End of Harry Potter. Okay? So he goes through, and who does he see? You? Me. But I thought Snape. He does seem the type, doesn't he? Rowling is telling us right there. Don't trust the type. Okay? He seems the type. How? Swooping around like an overgrown bat. She uses that image of Snape repeatedly. All the way through the 7th book. When the headmaster is sacked, when Snape is sacked from Hogwarts, when he flees, what does he do? He runs down a hallway, jumps through a window, and flies away like a bat, we're told. Such that early on, after the 7th book came out, a lot of people assumed on the internet Snape was a vampire. Okay? Rowling has since explained he's not. That is what you call a big, fat, giant, succulent, juicy red herring. It's all meant to distract. It's meant to make you think Snape is the ultimate bad guy. Okay? So, what does he learn from Quirrell? Harry talks about, overhearing Quirrell, and he says, you mean Voldemort was with you in the classroom? He's with me wherever I go. He's going to unfold his, head covering in a moment. He says, I met him when I traveled around the world. Foolish young man I was, full of ridiculous ideas about good and evil. What does he mean, ridiculous ideas about good and evil? That there were such things as good and evil. That's it. That's what he means. Quirrell now means there's no such thing as good and evil. Why? There is no good and evil. There is only power. That's it. This is the Nietzschean argument. Friedrich Nietzsche, 19th century German philosopher, 1844-1900, died of madness/syphilis. Okay? Founder of the nihilist school of philosophy. School essentially teaches there is no meaning to life. Suck it up, buttercup. That's it. There is no meaning. Accept that and go on, or don't accept it, and, to paraphrase Ebenezer Scrooge, rid the world of surplus population. Kill yourself. Okay? There is only power in those, what? Not strong enough to wield it, those too weak to seek it. Nietzsche's whole writings were about the will to power. Okay? He hated Christianity. He said it's a religion of weaklings. Why? It's all about mercy and forgiveness. Screw mercy and forgiveness. Kill the people in front of you. Take what you want. Hitler loved Nietzsche. I mean, just ate him up hook, line, and sinker. Why? He developed his whole Aryan philosophy out of Nietzsche. Why? Because Nietzsche created the phrase Übermensch, overman. Our term, Superman. See, when the comic book Superman was invented, created in the 1930s, it was meant, partially at least, to be an antidote to the Nietzschean / Hitlerian idea of the Superman. Because what is Clark Kent? Does he do things for himself? No.
Justice in the American way.
Peace, justice, in the American, and the white American way, as it's nowadays put, Okay? He represents these virtues. Okay? So, what happens to Quirrell? Harry touches him and he blows up into 1,000 smithereens of dust, right? No, he just dies. He doesn't, So Harry wakes up and he finds himself in the infirmary. And there's Dumbledore, page 296. Harry says, when he looks and sees all these things next to him, Dumbledore tells him they're from your friends and admirers. Because what happened down there is a secret, so therefore everybody knows. How long have I been in here? 3 days. Why 3 days? Louder, somebody?
Oh, is it Jesus?
Okay, it's a Jesus thing, right.
It's a reference.
Okay, death and resurrection. Or if you want to not go Jesus, you can say, oh, it's a Joseph Campbell thing. Hero with 1,000 faces. Don't go there, please. Joseph Campbell just ruins stories with that nonsense. Okay? It's death and resurrection. How do you know it's death and resurrection? Where was he when Harry, quote unquote, died? That is when he passed out before Dumbledore rescued him. Underneath the school. And then he's brought up. What's the first thing he sees? Twinkling gold. Okay? Gold's pure. This is the whole resurrection image. So, Harry tells him about, or says something about Nicholas Flamel, and Dumbledore says, try to get through this, page 297, you did do the thing rightly. What's he mean by that first did? I knew you were going to. You did it rightly. How? You researched. Way to go, Harry. You did research. You did library research, and then you went after rescuing the stone that nobody was supposed to know was here. Okay? And I'll leave with this. Actually, I won't, because I got to talk about it too much. Okay, we'll stop there. We're going to pick up with the quote at the end of the book, which is Dumbledore's kind of key quote. So we'll do all of Chamber of Secrets then on